Go is my hammer and everything is a nail. You know that old saying, always choose the right tool for the job. Shakespeare or someone like that. All right. Well, I've turned that one on its head. I'm using one tool for all possible tasks for what I believe are good reasons, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Interesting. I've heard I've heard two things. I've heard use the right tool for the job, and I've heard use the tool that you know best because you'll get the best result with it. So, because you can make a roller coaster in Excel. So, we'll see. Let's start somewhere else. I'm Marcus, a solo developer and a digital project builder. It's just me. I have no team or subcontractors, and I intend to keep it that way. I pursued a lifestyle that includes having my own business because it gives me the most flexibility of how and when I want to work. To structure my work around the rest of my life, so to speak, I want to collaborate but not manage other people. I can I can relate to that. That sounds like living the dream here. So, as a solo developer, I believe it's a good idea to choose your tools wisely. Even more so when in a team setting. Having a tech stack that's too complex can bury you in unnecessary busy work. You'll end up building infrastructure and nursing your layers of technology all day instead of, talking to customers and building what they want, delivering value to someone, to anyone, to the world. Okay. Yeah, I agree. I don't think you should get caught up in your infrastructure unless you're, say, like the thing that your business does is like work on, I don't know, work on high performance things. Like then worrying about infrastructure and algorithms and performance all day probably does actually make you a better. But keeping things simple means that you can actually spend time on the things that differentiate your business essentially. In 2016 I started building stuff in Go. I originally didn't like it, but I started getting it and it stuck with me. That's a little bit after I started getting into Go. I think it was like 2014, 20, yeah, like 2014, 2013 when I really started getting into Go. So it felt like early days for the platform a little bit. When was Go actually when was Go initially released? 2009, and version 1 was 2012. Yeah, so that's why it felt new, because I was there shortly after V1 launched. So, in fact, I may have even seen the V1 launch. So, and it stuck with me so much that I eventually turned my back on other programming languages. I was writing a lot of Python and JavaScript at the time, but I dropped that. I ended up making a course for Go developers, as well as sort of kind of reinventing React for backend Go. Oh, is this the guy who made Temple? Oh no, this is different. Components. Components. Components? Oh, so it's kind of like Temple. Oh well, navbar item, href checks. Okay, this is interesting. I might have to try this out. This looks like Temple, but without like having to have like a compile step in front of it. That might be pretty interesting. I now build basically all my software in Go, from tiny one-off tools to web services, CLI, and everything in between. It's good for all those things. I think you can even make Android apps in Go now. I think Google supports that. But why? The common wisdom is to always take the problem at hand, analyze it, and choose the tools. Why would I ignore that and go, nah, I'll just use Go again? Well, I present to you reasons. Perfect. Let's see the reasons. Reason 1, Go can basically do anything. Um, yeah, it can do everything but inheritance. If you need like OOP inheritance, probably like a lot of games use, you probably can't use Go as much for that, but you can do lots of composition. So maybe it would be all right to use it for development of games. I don't know. Yeah, Go can do basically anything. Actually, I'll widen that statement to all popular programming languages can basically do anything. Yes, most known for one or the other, and I think definitively they have their strengths and weaknesses. But I think at the end of the day, it basically comes down to opinion and taste. I think there are I think there are tiers. I think there are tiers, and within each tier you can swap out one or the other without much difference. I think you've got the scripting languages. I think you've got like the JavaScripts, the Pythons, Rubies, Luas, anything like that could sit in the bottom of this pyramid essentially. You've got the next step up, which are your C sharps, your Javas, your Goes, sort of. Goes probably a little faster than those other two, but things like that sit there. And then you've got the next tier, which is your C++, which is at the top of the pyramid essentially. Your C, your C++, your Zigs, your Rusts, all those compiled memory managed languages, non-memory managed languages, where you have to manage your own allocations and deallocations. And I guess the top of the pyramid would probably be just hand rolling assembly. So I think within each of those tiers, I think you can swap out those things for the most part with one or the other, and you'll get essentially the same result. I like Go. It's simple enough, easy to read, consistent, and a lot of other good things that align well with how I want to build software. There are certainly also things I don't like, but I don't care enough to let it bother me. But you probably know all those things already. Go is good for the obvious things: building CLIs, cloud infrastructure, HTTP servers, and network stuff. But people also build games on the Nintendo Switch in Go. I didn't know you could build Switch games. Interesting. Where do I see your targets in bit? Oh, here, platform. Windows, Mac OS, Linux, FreeBSD. Interesting. Gaming on FreeBSD. Android, iOS, WebAssembly, Nintendo Switch, Xbox. The only one missing is PlayStation. But they target FreeBSD, which is the base of PlayStation. So that's pretty interesting. So they could target PlayStation if they let them, essentially. This is a neat project that I might want to keep for later. I've even tried a string synthesizer in the terminal built in Go, which I thought was beyond cool. You get to the point. It's often possible to do what you want regardless of the tool you use, until you need to manage memory. Say you're like, you probably can't build a browser in Go probably pretty easily, or not. I bet somebody's building an OS in Go, but I bet it would be hard to build a kernel in Go. Reason 2, less context switching. This is the same argument that JavaScript devs use for using JavaScript on the back end, and I used to buy this argument and I don't anymore because I don't do it. I do C# on the back end or Go on the back end, and I do JavaScript on the front end. And I don't really, the only thing that gets me is the triple equals. I always try to use the triple equals in C# and Go, and it doesn't work. The compiler should just yell at you until you stop writing JavaScript. But other than that, like, I don't really have a problem with context switching per se. I think it's actually good for your brain to use multiple languages. I think becoming a polyglot is a good thing. Like, I think you should learn like that tier that I was talking about. You should learn one of each in all that tier. Like, you should learn a scripting language. You should learn a compiled like intermediate language. You should learn like a memory managed language where you have to manage the memory yourself, either with like Rust lifetimes or with actual allocations in Zig or C. I think you should learn one of each of those and be able to switch between all of them. I think that would be good for you as a developer, personally. But do you know the feeling when you start writing syntax for one programming language, realize that nope, you're supposed to be writing a different one, and you try to switch your brain to another mode while feeling slightly dumb? I know I used to. Like I said, I don't feel that much. But I don't anymore because I only use one programming language. Ha, joke's on past me. But it goes with much deeper than that. A programming language isn't just a bunch of syntax to build stuff. It's also a compiler, an IDE, a tool chain, a community to engage with. a never-ending news machine to keep up with, an ecosystem of libraries, tools, programs, idioms, styles. It can be quite a mouthful on its own, so I found it overwhelming to try to keep up with several. Is this possible? Sure. Will it be more superficial? Also, yep. Which brings me to my third reason. Okay, I don't know. I keep up with a few different ecosystems without much issue. I I keep up with C Sharp, JavaScript, with the web in general, which is a huge one, and Go. I keep up with that too. Like, I don't think it's too crazy. And the reason I don't think it's too crazy is once you understand one ecosystem, you kind of start to understand that they all tend to operate in a very similar way. And you can basically just figure out the differences for the most part. And everything else you can just look up when you need it. It's not that big of a deal, in my opinion. Reason 3, depth of knowledge. When I don't have to keep up with everything around several languages and build everything in just one language, I can go deep, learn stuff I wouldn't have gone into otherwise, investigate nooks and crannies I wouldn't have given a thought, learn esoteric language features, history, read obscure blog posts on details I won't necessarily have bothered with. That doesn't mean I ignore the rest of the world, obviously. You and I both know that there's more to learn in this field. Cutting away programming languages doesn't make software development less complex in a multitude of other aspects, but it does so in one very concrete setting and one which I can spend a lot of time on. And I know there's like in the market, it sounds like there's a call for more depth of knowledge. Like it sounds like there's a call for people to get deeper on this stuff. So, yeah, I can kind of see that. So what? I'm going to limit my career options? No. Focusing on I think you should be able to jump around languages, and I think that it shouldn't necessarily matter what languages you can jump into as long as you have one on each of those levels of the stack. I'm still working my way up that stack, so I'm still trying to that memory managed chunk is my next big thing I need to conquer. So we'll see what happens there. But I think if you get all of those, then I think you can adopt any language. You can jump in any code base, and you may not know the idioms of the language right off the bat, but you can work in it and you can conform to what everybody else there is doing. I think that you do need 3 languages, 4 if you count like being able to read assembly. I think you should know 4 essentially, and pick your 4 and be able to use all of them effectively. The world is large. The number of projects are basically infinite. Even if I carve out a tiny subset of infinite, that's still infinite. Good enough for me and my career ambitions, and I'll be really good at least at one thing. I'm way more productive in Go than when I just start out. Obviously, otherwise I probably should have switched to plumbing. Is that a call out to modern web development? It's just plumbing, web plumbing, essentially. You just use all the libraries and plumb them together. And I hope to stay on the path and maybe even increase the slope exponentially. Okay, less will do as well. Anywho, these are my thoughts. Bring on the nails and I'll beat them in with bloody determined gopher who's screaming, "Is that all you got?" All right. This was pretty good. I'm very interested to see how this works out for him long term. I think personally, my opinion is you should learn, like I said, those 4 languages, one of each, and be able to switch between them. But definitely go subscribe to his blog. Go subscribe to his RSS feed. I think I'm gonna do that. But this is pretty good. I liked it. If you liked this video, please leave a comment or subscribe to the channel. If you want to be around for the recording of these, you can show up on Twitch on 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Please go grab the link out of the description if you want to do that. All right. Everybody have a good one.